Markéta, let's talk about the exhibition at the V&A in 1983, the Pilgrims Show, which is one of the shows I'm really most proud of curating.
And I'm grateful that you curated it.
And we've been friends ever since. I was wondering how it came about, because I can't really remember, but I do remember we bought a number of your works, 6 or 7 from the Pilgrim series, and I think that was about 1980.
I know exactly. 1980. I came from Prague, and I was a little bit at loss because I arrived and I got a letter saying that Magnum discontinued the relationship with me because there was an annual meeting to which I was meant to deliver a portfolio and I didn't because I was in Prague.
Yeah.
And the ground was disappearing underneath of my feet because Magnum was such a great victory for me.
Yes.
And suddenly there it wasn't. And your purchase of my photographs was having two wonderful consequences for me. One of them that I had some money upon arriving, and another one that somewhat inspired I was not anymore with Magnum. The V&A wants my photographs, so it felt like it might not be absolute, and earth was not opening underneath of my feet. And I was terribly grateful for it.
Well, it was 1983 because I didn't have a gallery before 1983 at the V&A, but in 83 we had a new building opened and I was given the 3rd floor and it suddenly made exhibitions possible. So you were one of my first exhibitions in that space. I remember, it was quite an exciting opening party, wasn't it? Do you remember?
May I tell you something before the
yes, sorry,
party?
Yes.
I was sitting here with my girlfriend, Jane Hansen, and I was saying I am finishing with photography. The boy was 5, my son was 5, and all was much too difficult. I was thinking I would keep going. If I was kicked out of the Magnum, I didn't have any freelance work, and all was frightfully difficult. And I was saying I would keep plodding along if I would be alone. But there is a boy, and I don't want him to grow in such a poverty. And I was having even a plan that I would start to study. I was very interested in homeopathy, which through the history of homeopathy in Czechoslovakia, that is because it was forbidden by the communists, it was of course more interesting. But also when coming here, Matthew was unwell couple of times. The GP did not help at all, and somebody advised me to use a homeopath, and every time they made Matthew well. So I was very interested in homeopathy. I said I would study a homeopathy and I would try to make a living as a homeopath. And in that very moment there was a phone call. And I picked up the phone, and it was a long enough conversation on a phone that Jane understood the content, and the content was that you called me and you offered me the show. And when I came back to the table, she said, I believe that the study of homeopathy is postponed.
I'm so pleased to know that. I never knew that.
No, before. I never told you. And I thought before, one day I should tell you, so now you know. Yeah, I clearly gave an ultimatum to the Providence or to whoever was having power over my life. And once I said I'm stopping photography, there was a phone call saying, "Don't stop, I'm giving you a show."
What a narrow escape.
It was
My
absolutely
goodness.
narrow
I mean,
escape.
I'm sure you would have been a wonderful homeopathic doctor.
I think I would. And I actually, at the age of 60, I started to study in Prague, and I have a diploma in homeopathy.
Yes, I know that. Yes.
Yeah, but it was postponed for over 20 years.
There was a kind of there was a structure in photography, a sort of ecosystem, and I knew of your work because it was in Creative Camera, and it was in Creative Camera because Colin Osman, the editor and publisher, was very keen on Eastern Europe, and he'd been to Prague, and he said he was in Prague when it was still a little spring was still in the air, and
It was.
he saw your exhibition at the theatre
Beyond the Gate.
Beyond the Gate,
Yeah.
and that was quite a special circumstance, wasn't it? The fact that you had that show.
Well, very special because the show was installed for the first performance of Sophocles' Antigone. In that, the director, Ottomar Kriča, asked me to make an exhibition because he was saying with the Antigone, he is saying the same as I was saying with my pilgrims' photographs. That is, that when people believe something, that is, Antigone believed that she had to bury her brothers because that was the right things in front of the god, in spite that she knew she would be severely punished.
Yes.
He drew another connection with my photographs of pilgrims practicing the religion.
Individual rights against state rights in that play.
Yes.
And in real life.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, there's one standout picture in that show for me, which is the Sleeping Pilgrim, and I feel it captures what you've been talking about. It's like a picture of an individual conscience, and can you just talk about that picture a little bit?
Well, he was sleeping. The pilgrims would be praying all night and singing in the church all night. And by the first light, they would be tired. And on the top of the Levocha mountain, which the picture is taken on, would be first sunshine. Hence, it would be a bit warmer than it would be at night. So people would come into the warmth of the summer sun after sunrise. If I would live till 100, I could make a book on people sleeping in Levocha. But somehow that one picture said it all. If you are praying all night, you are sleeping different way than if you are drinking all night.
So you knew quite soon after you'd taken it that it was going to be a special picture.
I think sometimes you know it when you take the picture already, but not always. Sometimes you are surprised, because you are photographing 1/25th of a second, and bad things could happen while you photograph, because in 1/25th, which is the average speed of photography, you are not seeing all what is in frame.
No.
The rule is to look at the middle, and sides would look after themselves, But sometimes the sides don't look after themselves. Something could happen which could make the picture, but it also could kill the picture in many ways,
Is it just me who thinks that picture is so special, or have lots of other people admired it too? As you know, I have it on my wall at home in our drawing room, so I see it all the time.
Yeah.
I pass it, and it always.
But Joanna Drew was having it in her bedroom. First time when I met her, she said she has a postcard of it, and when she goes to sleep, she's using it as a bookmark. that last thing before she closes her eyes, she looks at my pilgrim's picture. And after Joanna died, I got invite from Peter
De French, yeah.
de French for his opening of his exhibition. So I came there and I said hello, and I met him a few times at various parties at Joanna, but I wasn't sure if he remembers me. So I was saying, do you remember me? And he said, of course I remember you. Joanna was married to your picture. And I made a question mark with my eyes. And he said, of course she was married to your picture. She slept with it every night in her bedroom. Which I thought was a nice way to put it.
One of the things that I was very impressed by with that show was that John Berger wrote to me and he said, I can't come to review the show because I'm finishing a project here in France, but I've asked New Society to send someone. And so a young art critic, Peter Fuller, arrived and he wrote a review. He subsequently became a kind of conservative maniac and nutcase, but he did a lovely review. And I thought, one of the things I really admire about John Berger is his generosity of spirit. I mean, to do that, I can't come, but I'm going to make sure.
He actually did come. You got it a little bit wrong. He
Really?
did come. He saw the show.
Oh,
He got a telephone number of me, probably from you. Can't imagine anybody else would have it. And he phoned me. And he was saying how much he liked the show.
hmm.
And at that time there was no review. And in the short phone call he made, I said, there is no review. And he said, myself, I can't do it. And now that's the part you remember. He said, I can't do it,
That's
but
when
I
he
would make sure that it would be done.
Yes.
And next, it is what you said, that Peter Fuller reviewed the show. Before that, in all the papers, and it was heartbreaking, they were reviewing the large show on wallpaper, which was at V&A at the same time. And they would
Really?
write about wallpaper, 4 paragraphs, 5 paragraphs, and then last sentence, they always have done it last sentence. Last sentence would be also simultaneously with wallpaper, there is a photographic show of haunting pictures of Markéta Luskačová. And actually haunting is not as bad as me being a foreigner. I knew only one meaning of the haunting, which was, well, the ghost.
Yes.
Is haunting.
Macbeth.
And that's, yeah.
No, it's high praise, high praise. I remember that Joseph Koudelka came to the opening, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
And I remember, I think we've talked before about Patrick Kinmonth thinking he'd swallowed
a piece of glass
in his white wine and collapsing to the ground, and he looked so marvellous, like Manet's dying Toreador, I thought, in a fine black suit, because he was working for Vogue in those days. And I remember that I had a great doctor, Dr. G.M. Carstairs, who gave the Wreath lectures, and he came forward and felt Patrick's pulse. And Joseph photographed the scene, and then the V&A first aiders came with a stretcher, and they put Patrick on it like a sack of potatoes, and carried him off to an ambulance. And he was taken to St. Stephen's Hospital, and he asked for Tessa to come to his bedside, and they fell in love and had been married for years.
Oh, really?
All because of your exhibition.
Really?
So it was a romantic.
Do you
moment.
remember that I got from Slovakia 5 liters demijohn of Slivovitz, which arrived the day of the opening, And it made
yes.
absolute havoc of my preparation because I had to go to the airport to collect this the 5 liters demijohn of the Slivovitz, and Roy Strong, then giving the talk, he was saying, "Don't take me that seriously," because I was having 2 glasses of that firing drink. And it was so very nice that some director of a enormously famous Victoria and Albert Museum starting his talk saying, "Don't take me seriously."
But it was a serious speech because I think I wrote it, or most of it, and it was quite a serious speech about why we were doing this exhibition. And I think we didn't really understand the full political dimensions of it,
No,
but we
because
understood enough of it, I
yeah.
think.
I think John Berger did,
Mm.
you know, while some Marxists in Britain didn't. I don't know if you are aware that 10/8 photographic magazine wrote, "Behold how low Vienna fell, exhibiting East European peasants on their knees."
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I'm afraid I can't remember that.
But you probably
But
did
how
not even.
interesting.
Yeah,
How interesting that they
yeah,
should do that because
yeah.
they were thought themselves very Marxist,
Yeah,
rigorous.
and they were having the blinkers like horses. The pilgrims' pictures were not only about religion.
Mm.
For Czechs, it was about integrity of the pilgrims that they were practicing regardless the consequences to their lives.
Courage,
That
like
they had
Antigone again.
yes.
And I remember that we talked about this once about how we sent 30 or so catalogues, copies of the catalogue.
Well, V&A or you kindly said, give me 20 or 30, I don't know, addresses in Czechoslovakia and we would post it.
That's right.
And none of the people receive it. So I was carrying it in my luggage bit by bit. And also, and I learned that only after 1990, that Czechs were, if managing to go abroad, which was not that simple, if they, Czech photographers, if they went abroad, they would carrying a Sudek's books. Sudek, because his pictures were of landscape or still life, was acceptable to communists. So his books were published. They would take Sudek's book, and in bookshops in Western Europe, they would swap it for my pilgrims. And when I learned this, I was very.
I wanted to ask you a bit more about John Berger because when the exhibition went from it was toured by the Arts Council, wasn't it? Which was great. And he wrote the text for the little catalogue they did and all the postcards.
They asked me whom would I want to write the text, and because John was so beautifully talking on a phone to me, I thought, why not John? And John wrote me a postcard saying, "Dear Markéta, your pictures are so wonderful. They don't need my words." And for very few times I was as if assertive. I sent a postcard back saying, "Dear John, but I would need your text."
You couldn't argue with that.
And John actually did write the text. It took quite a while, and I thought he would send it directly to the Arts Council. So I would, from time to time, call Arts Council and say, "Did the text arrive?" And they would say, "No, it didn't." So 3 weeks later, and then suddenly it came in my post, and he wrote there something which I found it very beautiful. He wrote, "This is the text. If you like it, give it to Arts Council. If you don't like it, send it back and I will bake something else."